Superheroes are overrated. The DC Universe's real powerhouses? It's villains. From universe-devouring entities like the Anti-Monitor to twisted reflections of heroism like the Batman who laughs. These antagonists are forces of nature, embodiments of chaos, and sometimes even reflections of our own darkest impulses. Today we explore 10 of the most powerful and terrifying villains in the DCU. This android, known as Amazo, was created by the brilliant but twisted Professor Evo with a single, terrifying purpose: to replicate the powers of any superhero it encounters.
It's called Amazo.
Imagine a being that can soar through the skies like Superman, wield the emerald energy of a Green Lantern ring, move at the blinding speed of the Flash, and possess the incredible strength of Wonder Woman, all at the same time. Amazo isn't just a simple copycat though. It possesses a sophisticated learning matrix that allows it to analyze and adapt to any new power it encounters, constantly evolving and becoming more dangerous. In one infamous encounter, Amazo single-handedly took on the entire Justice League, pushing Earth's greatest heroes to their absolute limits and showcasing the terrifying potential of its adaptive abilities. He can teleport across vast distances, manipulate matter at a molecular level, and even absorb energy attacks, turning their power against the heroes themselves. This potent combination of replicated abilities and rapid adaptation makes Amazo a near unbeatable foe, a constant threat lurking in the shadows, ready to unleash the combined might of the Justice League and potentially even more against the world. Each encounter with Amazo forces heroes to rethink their strategies, knowing that whatever worked before might be completely useless the next time around. The potential for Amazo to evolve and master even more powers makes him a ticking time bomb, a walking arsenal of stolen abilities waiting to be unleashed. This skeletal scythe-wielding entity is the embodiment of death itself. Necron rules over the land of the unliving and commands the Black Lantern Corps, an army of undead beings powered by the Black Power Rings. He can resurrect the dead, control their minds, and drain the life force of the living. Necron has even been shown to imprison the Anti-Monitor and use him as a power source. This guy is basically a walking apocalypse, and even the most powerful heroes struggle to defeat him. This monstrous Kryptonian abomination is best known for being the only one to ever kill Superman. Doomsday is a nearly indestructible killing machine with incredible strength, durability, and a healing factor that makes Wolverine look like an amateur. He can adapt to overcome any attack, meaning he can only be killed once by the same method. This means he's a constantly evolving threat. Doomsday has even evolved to control Hellfire and drain the life force of those around him. Not only that, but Doomsday also has venomous claws. This guy is a force of nature, and his relentless drive for destruction makes him a constant threat to the DC Universe. This demonic entity is the father of Raven and one of the most powerful villains in the DC Universe. Trigon has conquered countless worlds and dimensions, and his power is virtually limitless.
Who shall rule? And who shall serve?
He can warp reality, control minds, teleport, and even manipulate matter. But here's the thing about Trigon: he's more than just a demon. He's a manifestation of evil itself. He's basically the embodiment of all the darkness and hatred in the universe. Trigon has even been shown to go toe-to-toe with Mr. Amexi's PTLK, a fifth-dimensional imp with reality warping powers. This guy is basically the devil incarnate, and his evil influence is a constant threat to the heroes of the DC Universe.
Now, I don't know if Lobo really hates the Justice League, but let's be honest, Lobo doesn't really belong on a team at all. I mean, for starters, the guy is powerful enough to do what he needs to do all by his lonesome, but that's kind of the point. He can already do a lot by himself, and that's kind of how he likes it. Lobo is absolutely an anti-hero, if anything, and he's an incredibly reckless one, as he can survive pretty much anything. He's too unpredictable to make for a good teammate, and when he's on a team, he's just causing endless arguments with his teammates. Though he gets a lot of respect from other heroes, notably Batman, who also still thinks of him as too unpredictable, it doesn't mean any of them like working with him, and he doesn't really love working with him either. Guy Gardner, being a Green Lantern, is quite a powerful hero, but he can sure be a bit of a hot-headed jerk sometimes. It feels like Guy thinks that Guy is best, and with a name like Guy, that was never gonna be the reality. Guy is an alum of the Justice League International and is infamously its most hated member. Guy once tried to insist that between himself and Batman, he should be the one leading that team. But but he did it in the most bratty, annoying way possible. So much so that it led to Batman knocking him out cold and the rest of the team just carrying on without him. I think ever since then, Guy pretty much hated everything. While you can't deny his usefulness from time to time, Guy is just kind of a jerk. He mocks his teammates and is pretty reckless, leading the League to go to other Green Lanterns before him if they can, and leaving Guy to have a much better time just being a Green Lantern away from the Justice Leagues of all kinds. Now, if we included Batman on this list, why not one of his proteges? Jason Todd has a dark past, being the most disliked Robin before being snuffed out and then revived with a vengeance, going on a killing spree, and then becoming an incredibly troubled anti-hero. He's had a long path to redemption, and while he has toned down quite a bit, traditional morally golden Justice League teams are still something that just ain't gonna gel. As a bit of an outsider himself, Red Hood works best on a team like the Outsiders, who he has led. The League of Assassins, All Cast, and the Bat Family, these kind of teams are more Red Hood's people, and even then, his violence-first mentality and recklessness still gets him in trouble with his peers. The Justice League are just not willing to get their hands dirty, and he can't agree with that approach. Christopher Smith, who is better known as Peacemaker, thinks that the Justice League get just way too much credit. Based on his experience and the situations he finds himself in, the Justice League are a bunch of powerful dudes who show up too late. This is evident especially in the Peacemaker show. He believes the League show up after all the heavy work is already done. In the comics, he's recently been charged by Amanda Waller with taking out metahumans, and he had no qualms about doing it, as he has no qualms about taking any life in the name of peace. But of all the heroes he encountered, Roy Harper Arsenal was like the only League member he seemed to actually respect, and that was just for his skill. One of the weirdest things to ever happen was when Lex Luthor joined the Justice League and actually became a hero. After the events of Forever Evil, when the Crime Syndicate of America, an evil version of the Justice League from Earth 3, invaded the main continuity Earth and took out the Justice League, and Lex Luthor rallied a group to save the day, he then went on to join the Justice League, and the League let this happen just to keep their eyes on him. Lex obviously is the nemesis of Superman and has often been the enemy of the whole League, and hates Supes and almost anyone who holds what he believes is his place as the most powerful person on Earth. But he is incredibly intelligent, and he knows how to use anyone to achieve his goals, which surprisingly are sometimes darkly for the greater good and to achieve a more prosperous humankind, as long as he stays on top. And lastly today, for the longest time, including Black Adam on a list of superheroes was a no-no, because he isn't what a lot of people would define as a superhero. But over time he has dabbled in being heroic. It's just for Black Adam, he just has a different, some could say older idea of what justice means. And it's not whatever the Justice League dishes out. Again, much like a lot of other characters in this video, Black Adam has his own way of doing things, and being as powerful as he is, there are very few who can stop him or stand in his way, and the Justice League have tried to be the ones to do so on way too many occasions. Specifically, whenever he tried to enforce his brand of justice outside of his own country of Kahndaq. That's the other thing. Like Aquaman, Black Adam is a leader, and he's also surprisingly a family man, and he prioritizes his country and his family and his ideals over almost anyone else.
Number 10. Joker. The Joker is infamous for his lethal nature and chaotic behavior. He uses his expertise in chemical engineering to create deadly weapons such as razor-tipped playing cards, acid-spraying lapel flowers, and deadly joy buzzers. His disregard for human life and unpredictable nature make him a formidable foe for any hero. He has caused multiple tragedies in Gotham City, leading to the death and injury of many different people. The Joker's complete lack of empathy and morals, coupled with his willingness to go to extreme lengths to achieve his goals, make him an exceptionally deadly character in the world of comics and an exceptional foe for not just Batman, but the Justice League as well. During the modern era, Joker has joined up with the Injustice League in an effort to defeat the whole premier superhero roster, and also targeted the whole team all by himself following the events of Endgame, manipulating them into mistrusting Batman and using them as weapons when he turned them against the Dark Knight. And for reference, if you're wondering when I say Endgame if I'm talking about the right publisher, I am. DC also had an Endgame event too. I know it's confusing. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us that you love us by clicking that like button, especially if you like when we talk about villains. I know I love to talk about villains. I hope you love it too. Number 9. Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord's power set has changed over time, but the fact remains that when it comes to taking control or influencing others in the DC universe, he's one of the best. He has taken control of the minds of some of the most powerful heroes in DC, such as Superman and Martian Manhunter. And because his powers have fluctuated over his history as a character, so have his power levels, with him at one point being able to extend his telepathic reach to manipulate the minds of billions at a time on Earth. Number 8. Amazo. In 1960, Amazo debuted as a powerful villain in The Brave and the Bold, issue number 30, to challenge the Justice League of America, created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sikowski. Amazo is no ordinary android though. He possesses technology that allows him to replicate the abilities and powers of the superheroes that he battles. This gives him a significant advantage in combat, making him an opponent to be reckoned with. Additionally, Amazo can even duplicate his opponent's weapons, making him an even more challenging adversary. The Flash, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern make up the roster that Amazo initially faced, and as such, these are usually the power sets he possesses by default. Number 7. Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage, also known as Vandar Adge, is a formidable adversary who has been terrorizing the world for over, get this, 50,000 years. He possesses advanced healing abilities and immortality, which he gained after coming into contact with the mysterious meteorite during prehistoric times. Despite not being known for necessarily crazy superhuman powers, he is a brilliant strategist and skilled fighter with vast knowledge in various sciences and forms of combat. Over the course of history, he has faced off against other immortals and reincarnating heroes such as Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Immortal Man, and Resurrection Man. He's also proven to be a recurring thorn in the side of the Justice League. In his quest for power and attempts to defeat the JLA, he has even allied himself with organizations such as the Injustice Society and the Legion of Doom. Beware of Vandal Savage, for he's definitely a relentless and cunning villain who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. And he's got the experience to back it up.
Number 5. Injustice League. Okay, so we have the Crime Syndicate of America, but there was also a team of villains put together to fight that team of villains. So, sort of technically making these villains heroes, but also not really because they're still villains. Right? The important information here is that the Injustice League, at least the one I'm referring to, was formed to combat the Crime Syndicate of America from Earth 3. The team's villainous members included Bizarro, Black Manta, Black Adam, Catwoman, Deathstroke, Sinestro or Parallax, Captain Cold, and they were formed and led by Lex Luthor. The team first appeared in Forever Evil number 3 in January of 2014 when the Crime Syndicate of America invaded the Prime Earth universe and tried, and very nearly did, take over the world.
At number 4, we have the Injustice Syndicate. I know, lots of groups with Syndicate and Injustice in their names. Well, that's because this evil version of the Justice League actually exists as a sort of combination between the Injustice League and the Crime Syndicate, both of which are included in this list respectively. Appearing in Batman the Brave and the Bold, in the episode called Deep Cover for Batman, Batman manages to travel to their evil dimension and infiltrate their operations disguised as Owlman. He sees that this group comprises of an evil version of himself, along with other evil alternate versions of other heroes he knows and works with. While eavesdropping, Batman learns of their plans to, destroy other universes entirely, which of course, he feels is something he needs to put a stop to. And it can't wait, naturally. So he decides to take all of them on himself, and because he's Batman, and it is his TV show after all, he wins. Those universes can thank him later.
Number 3. The Joker League. In Emperor Joker number 1 of October 2000, the Joker has gained 99.99% of the reality warping powers of the 5th dimensional being, Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he used them to completely warp the world into an insane offshoot of our real world. In this Joker world, he has put together an evil, insane version of the Justice League called the Joker League of Anarchy. The team members include some characters we've seen before, such as Bizarro number 1, Enigma, who's the Riddler, Gravedigger Lad, who is actually Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. He has also created completely new characters that are wholly original to this story: Ignition, Bounty, Schism, and Scorched. He even has Lex Luthor as a jester. They are basically just the henchmen of this already pretty much all-powerful version of the Joker. Just another way of keeping him entertained, it seems.
At number 2, I'm putting the Injustice League from the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us. Most of us already know how this story goes, but in case you don't, this is one of the cooler and more well-written storylines about an evil alternate version of the Justice League. In most cases on this list, these evil groups are created by an alternate reality, which is always fun but pretty simple to come up with. But this storyline shows a radicalized Superman leading the Justice League to the dark side. And like I said, this isn't because he's an evil version of Superman or one that's possessed by some evil force. He's genuinely turned to evil after the Joker tricks him into killing Lois Lane. So to combat this new unexpected evil force, Batman decides to bring in other members from the Justice League from another universe, and the result is some pretty great fighting gameplay. And right as the game was being released, a comic book series of the same name was also being released in tandem, serving as a prequel to the game. Where you can derive general story points from the game itself, most of the backstory I just explained actually comes from the comics. It's cool to see the video game and comic book worlds working in tandem, and they make a pretty cool new storyline that I figure has to be ranked pretty high on this list.
Number 1. The Crime Syndicate of America. The Crime Syndicate of America hails from the strength-obsessed Earth 3, and is a twisted, evil version of many characters who make up the main universe Justice League of America. Its members include Ultraman in place of Superman, Thomas Wayne Jr. aka Owlman, and Alfred Pennyworth as the Outsider, Superwoman, who was Lois Lane at one point and Donna Troy at another, the cowardly Harold Jordan and vengeful John Stewart, who are both Power Ring, which are evil Green Lanterns, at different times, John Allen and John Chambers separately also as Johnny Quick, Atomica, Sea King, Deathstorm, Grid, and John Johns. They come into contact with the main universe many times, and they almost always spell out bad news, as you'd expect from the antithesis to the Justice League of America.
Number 10. Crime Syndicate. The Crime Syndicate are the alternate Justice League of Earth 3. The main difference between them and the main continuity team, though, is that they are evil counterparts to the world's mightiest heroes. Instead of protecting the people of their Earth, they use their power to intimidate and control them instead. Not so good. The Crime Syndicate are pretty fearsome when it comes to their individual power sets and abilities, rivaling the League's members themselves, but the team's weakness lies in their lack of teamwork, and often in their inflated egos. And friends, before we move on to the next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, if you love my black trench coat, be sure to let us know by clicking that subscribe and hitting that like button. Number 9. Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul if you prefer. Ra's al Ghul is traditionally thought of as a Batman villain exclusively, but he's also threatened the whole world before. And he's also threatened the whole Justice League, managing to quickly get rid of all of them using Batman's own intel, which Ra's stole. Ra's al Ghul becomes a JLA villain in the story JLA Tower of Babel. Here he uses one of Batman's strengths against him, and in so doing manages to defeat almost the entire League, except for Batman, who manages to figure out what's happening and in the end eventually put a stop to it before Ra's is able to fully execute his plan. The really crazy thing is, while Ra's did hope to defeat the League, he really just wanted them out of the way so that they wouldn't stop him. So killing the League wouldn't have even been his main focus here, but imagine if it had been his main focus. The other interesting element in Tower of Babel is it also kind of implies that while being team leader, Batman is also kind of a villain to the team, and even if Raz's plan ends up being stopped and the League recovers from the temporary defeat, Ra's at the very least did manage to destabilize the team by turning them against their own leader, Batman, who is forced to leave the team as a result of the fallout. So in a way, he kind of won that. Number 8. The Flash. Although it feels weird to include Wally West's Flash on this list, sorry Wally, he was for a short time a Justice League villain, or at least an antagonist, and without meaning to be, kind of an effective one too, although at the same time also being a victim himself here. This all went down in Heroes in Crisis, where Wally's own burden of knowledge of the previous continuity caused him to uncover records of trauma suffered by his fellow colleagues. Overwhelmed by emotion, Wally loses control of his powers, killing some who came to the Hero Therapy Center known as Sanctuary for counseling and treatment. Although like I said, he didn't really mean to. And later he was like, I gotta make this right. And he did make it right, so he's good. It's good now. Number 7. Lex Luthor. Many people see Lex Luthor as simply Superman's nemesis, but the truth is, his genius and ambition has also driven him to take on the whole League before as well. In fact, Lex has even been driven to make his own team to rival the League from time to time, being sometimes known as the leader of the Legion of Doom, depending on which continuity and which roster we're we're talking about, though it should be noted he was the leader of the original incarnation of that team that first appeared in the 70s animated series Super Friends. And even beyond that, Lex was also famous for targeting the Justice League with his Injustice Gang of the World in the 90s comics, which was actually brought together by Lex for the sole purpose of destroying the whole Justice League. So yeah, definitely makes you a Justice League villain if you're out to destroy them. Number 6. Batman Who Laughs. I think after the events of Dark Knight's death metal, we have to acknowledge the Darkest Knight, right? Hailing from the dark multiverse reality of Earth -22, the Batman Who Laughs was originally Bruce Wayne and operated as Batman before he became corrupted by the Joker. He would turn into a villainous combination of these two characters and become known as the Batman Who Laughs, an alternate version of Batman. While he would go on to rival other villains who are beyond even a multiversal level threat to our heroes, Batman Who Laughs, at his base level, without absorbing a bunch of other people's powers, is kinda actually just a guy. Although a really smart and diabolical evil genius sort of guy, and maybe a guy who, you know, had his physiology slightly altered by Joker venom. But anyways, truly it's his brilliant mind and his determination that makes him so deadly.
Not all DC Comics superheroes play well with others, and that means they don't always see eye to eye with the goody two-shoes on the Justice League. With the amount of fallouts that Batman has had with the Justice League, you kinda knew there was a possibility he might end up on this video, and well, here he is. Batman has an interesting relationship with the League. Like many others on this list, Batman is prone to doing things his way first. He's also ultra aware of threats, and he knows the danger of an out-of-control Justice League. I don't believe he hates his teammates, except for the occasional Green Lantern, but Batman is just someone who isn't quick to trust others, and even then he will still plan against you just in case. That rubs some people the wrong way, especially when Batman is not always a great communicator to begin with. It's kinda funny, for how charming and personable Bruce Wayne can be sometimes, he really is not a people person as Batman, and if others don't see his way of thinking, as the Justice League has not on multiple occasions, Batman has no problem with just walking away. Heroes have a lot of responsibilities. Kings also have a lot of responsibilities. So imagine being both. You need to have priorities, and it can understandably be quite annoying when your teammates don't seem to know which priorities should come first. Aquaman was an original charter member of the Justice League. He's been around since the very beginning. He's also the king of Atlantis, with his top priority being his people. Therefore, when the other League members were prioritizing their own personal problems over League activities, when Aquaman is balancing all of the above and still being a League member, he understandably decided, hey, what the heck? And he disbanded the League to form the Detroit League. That would actually take it all seriously. That ultimately failed, but Aquaman has had many other falling outs with the League for various different reasons, his loyalty to his own people first being one of the biggest ones. Now, I wouldn't say that Booster Gold hates the Justice League necessarily. I would say that there is a little bit of resentment there though. Booster Gold is a football star from the future, and he became a hero by stealing other heroes' stuff from a museum and going back in time. With that kind of origin story, he isn't really greatly respected by the other heroes, and oftentimes isn't taken very seriously by them either. It was actually a plot point in the Countdown to Infinite Crisis where he and Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, felt they weren't taken seriously enough by the Justice League. But the thing is that even though, yes, Booster Gold didn't really start off on the best foot, he has since had to deal with some pretty serious threats to the world, those dear to him, and to the whole entire time stream. He's purposely had to sacrifice people and his own morality and pride for the continuation of reality, and while he may be respected for that by some, it wasn't always a lot of Justice League members. John Constantine is a bit of a black sheep. Okay, he's a lot of a black sheep. Constantine is very much punk, non-conforming, he breaks the rules. That kind of thing doesn't really fly in the Justice League, or most teams for that matter. So, while Constantine has teamed up with others before and has been on the Justice League Dark, the fact that rules can attempt to stop him from doing what is needed to actually save the day is not really something he respects. Similar to Booster Gold, Constantine has had to make the absolute hardest choices possible for the ultimate good, but unlike Booster, John doesn't really crave acceptance from those who oppose his morals. Even on the Justice League Dark, John betrayed the team to do what some would argue was the right thing. He is understandably jaded, and others kind of have to put up with him because he's just that good.
This cosmic entity is a destroyer of universes, responsible for the crisis on Infinite Earths. The Anti-Monitor possesses nearly limitless energy manipulation, vast physical strength, and the ability to reshape reality on a multiversal scale. He can absorb entire universes to increase his power, making him an existential threat to all of existence. Even Darkseid fears the Anti-Monitor's destructive potential. This guy is a force of cosmic annihilation, and his presence spells doom for any universe he sets his sights on. So there you have it, 5 of the most powerful and terrifying villains in the DC universe. But the chaos doesn't stop there. We've only scratched the surface of the nightmares the DCU has to offer. Get ready, because the next half of our countdown delves into even more chilling territory, showcasing villains whose intelligence and ambition rival even their immense power. Now prepare for a different kind of threat, one that doesn't rely on brute force, but on cold, calculated intellect. This super intelligent android is obsessed with collecting knowledge and preserving civilizations, even if it means destroying them in the process. Brainiac travels the universe in his iconic skull-shaped spaceship, shrinking cities and bottling them up to add to his collection. He possesses a 12th level intellect, advanced technology, and a vast array of powers, including telekinesis, telepathy, and force field generation. Brainiac has been a thorn in the side of Superman and the Justice League for years, and his cold, calculating logic makes him a truly formidable opponent. This fifth-dimensional imp may seem like a harmless prankster, but he possesses reality-warping powers that make him one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe. Mr. MXYZTLK can do almost anything he can imagine, from turning people into animals to erasing entire cities from existence. He once even turned the entire world into a cartoon. And get this, he's actually aware of being a fictional character. Talk about breaking the fourth wall. The only way to stop him is to trick him into saying his name backward, which sends him back to the 5th dimension. But even then, he always finds a way to return and cause more chaos. Did I mention he can control a subway train with a video game joystick? This guy is a walking reality bender, and his unpredictable nature makes him a constant source of chaos in the DC universe. The ruler of Apocalypse, Darkseid is a godlike being with immense power and a thirst for universal domination. He possesses superhuman strength, durability, and the ability to manipulate energy on a cosmic scale. His Omega beams can erase anything they touch, and his Omega Sanction can trap victims in an endless cycle of torment. Imagine being trapped in a never-ending loop of terrible lives, each one worse than the last, with no escape. That's the Omega Sanction. Darkseid is also a master strategist and manipulator, always scheming to conquer the universe and enslave all free will. This guy is basically the ultimate evil overlord, and his presence casts a shadow over the entire DC universe. This nightmarish fusion of Batman and the Joker is a terrifying force of chaos and destruction. He possesses Batman's tactical genius and the Joker's nihilistic insanity, making him a truly unpredictable and dangerous foe. The Batman who laughs has been shown to manipulate and defeat some of the most powerful beings in the DC universe, including Perpetua herself. He's so powerful he can even turn Robins into Joker-like monsters and destroy multiple universes. He even gained the powers of Dr. Manhattan, making him a near omnipotent threat. This guy is a walking nightmare, and his presence brings terror and despair to the DC universe. This cosmic entity isn't just powerful, he's a force of nature on a multiversal scale. The Anti-Monitor is responsible for the Crisis on Infinite Earths, an event that nearly wiped out all of existence. He can absorb the energy of entire universes, growing stronger with every world he consumes. He's got antimatter manipulation powers that can break down anything in his path, and he can even travel through dimensions and alter reality itself. This guy is the ultimate cosmic destroyer, and his very existence threatens the stability of the multiverse. So there you have it. 10 of the most powerful and terrifying villains in the DC universe. But the battle between good and evil isn't confined to just one comic universe.
Alright, at number 10 we have the very silly but nonetheless evil Super Enemies. In the 1970s animated TV show Super Friends, there's an episode in 1979 called Universe of Evil, where Superman travels to an alternate universe to meet the evil counterparts to the Super Friends, very creatively named the Super Enemies. And the team is made up of all those bad guys we've all known so well and grown up with. You know, like Aquaman with an eye patch, and tinted red Batman, and oh, who could forget the iconic alien monkey Gleek? what a trailblazing team of supervillains they were. But as much as I roast them, they do actually pose a decent threat to Superman in this storyline, to the point where they team up with the military armed with kryptonite weapons, and even bring in their own version of Superman, giving our Superman a good old run for his money. But luckily, Superman Prime finds something called an antimatter flask, which turns all the super enemies back to being good again. Thank God Aquaman retires that eye patch and is no longer so intensely menacing looking. What a relief.
Number 9. Justice League of Assassins. Unfortunately, this evil Justice League didn't stick around too long. Being first introduced in Superman Volume 4, number 15 in March 2017, the Justice League of Assassins on Earth 14 were a group of augmented, mostly non-superpowered soldiers led by the obviously powerful Superman. The team was made up of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Harley Quinn, and Green Lantern. With the exception of Superman, their powers relied mainly on weapons and technology, but primarily they used advanced firearms. Ultimately, they were all slaughtered, with this Superman being kidnapped by Prophecy, which is a shame, because this team looked super cool and they seemed to inhabit a pretty dark and grim looking post-apocalypse. Could have been very interesting.
At number 8, we have the Conglomerate. This group is basically a bizarro version of the Justice League created by Booster Gold. The group is formed after Booster's departure from the Justice League International due to a lack of respect from his peers. When Booster first fails to bring together a competent group of heroes to form the first iteration of the Conglomerate, someone named Claire Montgomery comes in to manage the group. With her, she brings along the likes of Deadeye, an alternate Green Arrow, Fiero, a guy with fire powers, Frostbite, an ice power guy, Elastaman, a stretchy man, Element Man, much like Metamorpho, Scarab, a knockoff of Blue Beetle, and Slipstream, a dollar store Flash. When they engage in a small friendly skirmish with the Justice League International, the fight quickly turns serious, and everyone learns at once that these new members have actually been brought from an antimatter world called Quard, and they're basically just entirely evil, and always had been. Luckily, the JLI take them down, but it's a close one.
Number 7. Squadron Sinister. This isn't so much an evil alternate Justice League as this team actually appears in the Marvel universe. But I'm gonna count it because I'm just stubborn like that. The original Squadron Sinister was created as a sort of obvious play on DC Comics Justice League characters Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, with the characters Hyperion, Nighthawk, Dr. Spectrum, and the hilariously named Wizard, respectively. The team was created by the Grand Master after he encountered the Squadron Supreme, and they first appeared in Avengers number 69 when they were pitted against the Avengers in a game between the Grand Master and Kang the Conqueror. They're bad guys who are counterparts to 4 members of the Justice League. I gotta stop justifying my reasons. They're on the list. Argue with me down below if you don't like it.
Alright, at number 6 we have the Justice Lords. Appearing in the animated series Justice League in the episode titled A Better World, this evil team is led by a radicalized Superman. Radicalized because he witnesses Lex Luthor murder the Flash and threaten nuclear war. So, Superman decides he'd abandon the typical hero's code of conduct and kill the bald tyrant himself. And in this alternate universe, Lex Luthor isn't just some super rich supervillain working away and hiding. He's actually worked his way to becoming the President of the United States. So, after his death, there is a power vacuum to be filled. And who would be better rulers than this evil alternate Justice League? No one. They didn't think so anyway, so they take over and put in place a totalitarian government with the justification being that they are protecting humanity from itself. And they start calling themselves the Justice Lords, which, I mean, you should sort of know you're the bad guys when the word Lord is in your title. Luckily, the real Superman is able to catch on and take them out of power before anything goes too far.
Number 6. Brainiac. Brainiac may have been defeated by Superman when he was kicked out of his ship and succumbed to Earth's germs, and yes, that may be the first thing that I personally think of when I think of him, but that one defeat does not define him as a weak villain, especially considering how much he has evolved over the years and how long he's been around. In fact, would you be surprised to hear that Brainiac's strength lies not only in his intellect, but also in his physical abilities? In Jeff Johns' Action Comics 5-part story arc, Brainiac, it was revealed that the previous Brainiac Superman had encountered were more android replicas of the real deal, and that the real Brainiac was far more powerful, both mentally and physically, than all of them combined. This depiction of Brainiac as a formidable foe showcases his true potential and cements his place as a top-tier villain in regards to the Justice League's Rogues Gallery. Number 5. Lex Luthor. Did you know that Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster also created Lex Luthor, the notorious villain from DC Comics, just like they also created Superman? Of course, it would make sense they made Superman's #1 villain. He first appeared in Action Comics issue number 23 way back in 1940 and has been Superman's arch enemy ever since. In recent years, he's been portrayed as a power-hungry CEO of LexCorp who wants to rid the world of Superman. He claims it's because Supes is a threat to humanity, but sometimes it seems he's simply jealous of how much people love the Man of Steel. As you can imagine, with his high profile as a supervillain, he's often come into conflict with other superheroes, including Batman, and of course the entire Justice League team. It's interesting to note that despite having no natural superpowers, Lex is a genius with a knack for business and politics, and has a deep understanding of science and technology. This combined with the tech that he's developed makes him a massive threat to the heroes of the DC universe. Number 4. Anti-Monitor. The Justice League has many powerful villains, but the Anti-Monitor is one of the most terrifying. His control of the antimatter universe and the ability to threaten the multiverse make him an unstoppable force. During Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Anti-Monitor caused massive destruction, and his determination to end everything was truly terrifying. Even after this defeat, the threat remained as Necron actually held his body, taking it and repurposing it to be used as a power source for the Black Central Power Battery. It's clear that the Anti-Monitor as a villainous multiversal threat should not ever be taken lightly. The lasting impact of the Anti-Monitor and his influence on the DC universe will not soon be forgotten, as his influence and interference helped to basically reshape the entirety of the continuity and reality. Number 3. Hecate. While they may have not known it at the time, Hecate was also a very powerful Justice League foe. Here, interactions with the Justice League and her manipulation of them were not even actually recognized by the JLA themselves, but instead were taken note of by Justice League Dark, a somewhat loosely sanctioned magical division of the League that operates out of the Hall of Justice's basement and is led by Wonder Woman. While Hecate in the end would be defeated in the pages of Justice League Dark, this was only possible because Wonder Woman was able to use other, more powerful even villains, if you can imagine that, of the Justice League Dark team to defeat Hecate. Basically like pitting those against one another. Number 2. Starro the Conqueror. Starro can literally conquer entire worlds and has in fact done so before. And on more than one occasion, they have also almost conquered Earth as well. Starro is a giant space starfish who in their first appearance took on the first formation of the Justice League in The Brave and the Bold issue number 28, where they threatened to, you guessed it, conquer the world! While in the Suicide Squad film, Starro the Conqueror was a cruel nickname given to Starro by the Thinker, who was charged with experimenting on the imprisoned alien. In the comics, it was a name earned by Starro because they had literally conquered so many worlds. Number 1. Darkseid. Jack Kirby, the famed writer, artist, and comic book creator, created Darkseid, who made his first appearance in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, issue 134 in 1970. Darkseid is a tyrannical ruler of the planet Apocalypse and is depicted as a new god in his comic book appearances. His ultimate goal is to basically gain control over the anti-life equation and to eliminate all hope and free will in sentient beings, enslaving the multiverse in essence. He is considered one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe and is known as one of Superman's most formidable enemies and the Justice League's arch nemesis. Darkseid was originally known as Prince Euaxus, the son of King Yuga Khan and Queen Hegra of Apocalypse. He seized control of the planet from his older brother Drax by eliminating him when Drax attempted to claim the fabled Omega Force, with Euaxus betraying his brother and of course taking the Omega Force for himself. With this newfound power, Euaxus' skin turned to stone and he took on a new name, Darkseid. Number 5. Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom is pretty impressive considering that they're a group often made up of some of the Justice League's most powerful and recognizable foes, both their foes as individual superheroes as well as foes who have at one time or another threatened the entire Justice League. You know, like Lex Luthor. The Legion of Doom is often seen as competition to the League, being the evil version of the team who often seek to do things their own way, a much more sinister way, usually, but sometimes also seek to rival the League's achievements, operating in the name of the greater good. However, even when they're doing that, they're still kind of, against the League because they're like, we're better than you. So, yeah. Number 4. Pariah. The crazy thing is Pariah originally was just a scientist who wanted to help save the multiverse, or at least warn people about its destruction, but in so doing, he kind of became driven mad by its inevitable end. Pariah is the one behind the death of the Justice League in the Death of the Justice League story arc, which happened recently, which builds up to the Dark Crisis event. He succeeded where many have failed as major Justice League antagonists. He actually managed to, kill the Justice League. Perhaps this was possible for Pariah because his motivation to do so was so strong. He wasn't actually killing them out of hatred or because he felt, they were in his way or they had done him wrong, but because he felt their very existence basically threatened the existence of the multiverse. Seeing another major crisis coming that was in essence triggered by the consolidation of all continuities and universes at the end of Dark Knight's death metal, Pariah felt the only chance he'd have at stopping it would be to basically eliminate the heroes of the day, thereby stopping the progression of the coming crisis. To him it made sense. I don't know if it makes sense to you. I don't know if it makes sense to me, but to him it made sense. Number 3. Darkseid. Darkseid has to be one of the most powerful characters in the entire DC universe, hands down. Especially because although he might not appear to be on the same threat level as some of the others on our list, he's a villain that pretty much has to exist. In other words, you can never fully defeat Darkseid. Darkseid is, meaning that he will keep coming back even after he's defeated. This is because Darkseid is basically like a universal constant in the DC universe. Aside from that, Darkseid is a master strategist and is also known for being an immensely powerful warrior himself and being. He is insanely strong, nigh invulnerable, and comes equipped with Omega Beams, which are said to never miss their target. The beams can either disintegrate Darkseid's opponent completely or can be used as a life trap when Darkseid chooses instead to employ the Omega Sanction. The Omega Sanction actually traps targets in a series of synthetic lives, which was what happened to Batman instead when he was believed to have been killed by Darkseid. While some individuals can straight up resist the Omega effect, the Omega Beams are also said to be powerful enough to destroy entire planets, which seems like a contradiction, but hey, maybe the people that can avoid the Omega effect are also themselves powerful enough to destroy planets. Would that make sense? I don't know. Number 2. Anti-Monitor. Speaking of beings who have the ability to destroy entire worlds, Anti-Monitor one-ups this by possessing the ability to destroy entire universes. He is the villain we know from the famous Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event. This event completely changed the history of the DC universe, after the Anti-Monitor attacked and successfully destroyed many worlds, causing the continuity to in essence be reset and reorganized as a result of the fight against him. Also, I feel like you're a powerful villain if you can change up the whole world like that. That's pretty crazy. Number 1. Perpetua. Perpetua is actually probably one of the most powerful villains that the Justice League has ever come up against to date, and probably one of the most powerful villains just ever. Period. End of statement. She is the mother of the Anti-Monitor, Monitor or Over-Monitor, and the World Forger. Perpetua is actually believed to be one of the most fearsome beings in all of the Omniverse. Never mind the universe or even the multiverse, the Omniverse. The Omniverse holds within it all the known multiverses in existence for those that believe in that. That being the multiverses that are not just DC, but DC, Marvel, any multiverse you can imagine that exists, including our own. Which means, yeah, Perpetua is basically on a whole other level. While she was defeated in Dark Knight's death metal, Perpetua is still seen as being a foe possessing nigh omnipotence, with her even being implied as the creator of the universe, having likely been the hand of creation involved in sparking the Big Bang. She was tricked by the Batman Who Laughs and manipulated by him into giving up kinda all of her crisis energy power, thereby in the end being defeated, but still, at base levels, she would be considered one of the most powerful beings in the known Omniverse. Even though now, she got put in the Source Vault and it got destroyed, but still, I still think we need to tip our hats. Sure, she'll be back at some point.